Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Five Stripes Tonight. My name is Sydney Hunt. I'm an editor and writer at 30 South Soccer, SB Nation's home for all things Atlanta United. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or also on the 30 South Soccer Twitter feed, glad you can be with us tonight. If you have any questions or comments throughout the show, be sure to ask them in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them as best we can. All right, Atlanta United had, of course, a match on Wednesday night against FC Cincinnati, and I'll say there's quite a few things to talk about. Let's say that about Atlanta United. That might be a little bit of an understatement, but Wednesday, the first match under interim head coach Rob Valentino, again a 1-1 draw against Cincinnati up at TQL Stadium. Carrying on the Ohio theme this weekend against the Columbus Crew, who come to town tomorrow. That is on ABC. It should be a pretty significant match for Atlanta United, their first home match under Rob Valentino, as the club continues to look for a permanent head coach to replace Gary Heinze. My guest tonight knows a lot about the Crew. That's because she is the analyst for Columbus Crew matches on Bally Sports. Her name is Jordan Angeli. Jordan, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Sydney? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for coming on. So we'll get into the Crew a little bit later on, but I know
Okay.
you do a lot of work with the U.S. Women's National Team, and um, I'll give you a disclaimer. First of all, I wasn't able to watch the Sweden match. I meant
Okay.
to, and as it turns out, this probably was a good idea that I wasn't able to watch. But unfortunately, they fell 3-0 in that match.
Mhm.
They do take on New Zealand tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. So kind of want to ask you your thoughts real quick, and then maybe give me a scoreline prediction for tomorrow.
Ooh, a double question there. I like it. Okay, so if you want a little bit more insight into that game, since you weren't able to watch it, maybe some of the people that you that are following right now weren't able to watch it too. I did work with Total Soccer Show. I'm reviewing every game with Taylor Rockwell and Joe Lowry for the U.S. women over their Olympic run, and honestly, they got beat. They got stomped from the first minute. From the first minute, it was Sweden the whole way. It was a really smart, intelligent game plan from Sweden. One of the things they did is they used their wingers really high and wide, and it was difficult for the outside backs for the United States, who in Kelly O'Hara and Crystal Dunn are giant parts of their attack.
Right.
So when they didn't have that, it was challenging. The thing I said on our podcast when I was talking about it is you could have switched the jerseys of these teams and said, "Oh yeah, that's the US team."
Right.
Because Sweden was that good. They were lights out, did everything that they needed to do in that game. That's a big win for them. So, yeah, honestly, a lot of credit to Sweden for their game plan, how they executed it, and they scored 3 pretty good goals. In the game tomorrow morning. It's not at 4:30 a.m. for us, which is nice. It's at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
I think against New Zealand, you never want to make this U.S. team angry and be that next team that they have to play. So I do feel
Right.
like it's going to be quite the reaction from them and the response from them from that 3-0 loss. But we'll see. We'll see if maybe New Zealand might use some of those tactics that they saw Sweden use and utilize to get at this U.S. team. But I do think they're going to be more prepared and a little bit more flexible tactically in order to, if that is the case, to mitigate those situations during the game. But yeah, it should be a good one. A great Saturday morning game to watch
Yeah.
before the game between the Crew and Atlanta United.
Exactly. Exactly. So really a must-win game for the U.S. I mean, Sweden always seems to give us issues, but
Yeah. The
yeah,
Olympics
hopefully,
are weird, right? Because yes, the US need to win, but first and second go out of each group. So,
yeah,
and there's a couple of third place teams that also, I think it's 2 third place teams also advance. So
yeah,
there is opportunities, and it's a long, it's a short tournament, but it's the long game, right? You want to be in the final. So figuring out what that means for them in tomorrow's game, I think, I mean, technically maybe today for them now, but
right.
it's going to be important.
Yes, hopefully they get back on the right track against the Kiwis. I forget what they're called, like the soccer
Yeah.
Kiwis or something that I forget.
Yeah.
But we are going to switch gears now to the Crew, and let's talk
Yeah.
about the state of the Crew thus far. they're in a playoff position, but I was looking at the standings, and with a win tomorrow, they could be in pretty as high as third in the standings,
Mhm.
or as with a loss as low as seventh. I believe I saw. They've drawn fourth the last five. I mean, you had the Cincy Hellas Derby. That was a comeback despite being down. Harrison Awful for much of the second half. But then you have two nil-nil draws, including Wednesday against Nashville when they had 18 shots on goal, seven shots on target. And
Mhm.
credit, of course, to Willis for keeping Columbus off the score sheet. But what's the feeling around the club right now?
Well, let's just talk about what this last month has been. Since the international break, the Crew closed out historic Crew Stadium, which was the first soccer-specific stadium in MLS. That's emotional. Then they went to Austin, emotional to go
Yeah.
there and play at Austin and everything that happened with that. Then
Yep.
they played their rival in FC Cincinnati, and then they opened their new stadium. Man, just the emotions of all four of those games back to back to back was a lot. And I think that the team really did manage those games well. And they got, I think we're we have one loss, 4 wins, and 4 draws in the last 9. So the Crew is in a good place when you talk about what they did in those times to manage some of the emotions and to get results when they needed to get results. Besides from that, like a lot of teams, I feel like in MLS right now, not only are they dealing with international absences, but there's been a lot of key injuries that have been difficult for this team to get through.
Yep.
With, at the beginning of the year, they were in, as you guys were too, in Champions League, and playing those games is always just difficult on managing minutes and making sure you keep people healthy. And when you're coming off of a season, you guys know what it's like in Atlanta. You win a trophy, and then everybody's like, okay, there's that target. We want to beat that team. So you do that, you add in Champions League and the injuries. I think it's been pretty challenging start to the year, but you start to see, especially in these last few games, more glimpses of the Columbus Crew that we saw last year under Caleb Porter, and a lot of those pieces that were successful, especially when you talk about chance creation in the attack. It's hard to feel cohesive in the attacking third, right? That's the most creative part of the field. It should be the most dynamic. And when you are playing with different players all the time, it's hard to create those connections. And I think we're starting to see a little bit more of those connections build and the cohesion build as players come back from some of those injuries and even players step up. I feel like, and we'll probably get to this because we'll talk about the midfield, but Marlon Hairston has been one of the best players to step up and play in that 6 role next to Darlington Nagbe in the loss of Artur and Aiden Morris, and Perry Kitchen was out for a long period of time. So that's, 3 midfielders that you lose. So I feel like the state of the Crew is they're feeling a little disappointed from the game, the result of the game on Wednesday, and eager to use the momentum that they have gained in order to go and play the next game, which is Atlanta tomorrow at Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, you mentioned Nagby a little bit, and of course we have to talk about him because
We'll talk about him all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. He had a really good goal the other night that I had a chance to watch live. But of course, he's a beloved figure in Atlanta, and this is the first time he's been able to play in front of Mercedes, an actual crowd. Of course, last year, COVID and everything, but this is his first time back in Atlanta in front of his former home crowd. So, you mentioned emotion. That's got to be emotional for him, right?
Absolutely. And I think he loved Atlanta and loved, how can you not love the fans there? You guys are just obsessed with the team, which is great, right? I think you've really supported them in so many ways. So I think it will be interesting. Darlington Nagbe, I think, will go down as one of the best players to ever play in Major League Soccer. And it's not because he scored as many goals as Bradley Wright Phillips. It's because of who he is on every team he's played on. He is a winner. He won in Portland. He won in Atlanta. He won in Columbus. He is a difference maker, and his ability to get out of situations on the dribble, through passing, using his body. I honestly feel like he has a sixth sense sometimes where it's like he feels a defender and he's like, all right, they're coming at me. And now they slowed down, so I'll take another touch. But now they're coming out. It's incredible to watch him get out of situations and just manage the midfield pressure with such ease. It looks so easy. He makes all of us former midfielders really envious of that skill. It'll be interesting. I think he's probably talked to his team about what it's like to play in the Bends and what the stadium is like and how loud it is. But also what an opportunity it is to play in those atmospheres, because I think a lot of, everybody missed it last year. And so to be back and to get that chance here as his first chance going back there, it'll be a fun experience for him, I think, to be on the other side of things.
Yeah, I definitely expect, the crowd will welcome him warmly. Like I say, he's a beloved figure in Atlanta United history, won a cup.
How could you not like the guy, honestly?
Exactly.
He's the nicest human.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, it's obviously tough to see him go, and, Atlanta fans will kind of grumble about the front office saying, Atlanta could have done more to keep him, but at the same time, it's a great situation for him. Going up, being reunited with Caleb Porter, someone who he's known for years, going back to Ohio. So really, really glad to see him, continue his success up in Columbus. Another player that has had success in Columbus, and we have to talk about him, is Lucas Zelarayan. And
so good.
I tell you what, I mean, I watched both of his free kick goals against New York City the first time they met, and then again the second time they met, just a few nights ago. I mean, he's meant a tremendous amount to this club, I'm sure.
Yeah, he really has. Sydney, you guys have signed really good DPs, so you know what it's like to sign a DP who is a game changer. And Celerion has been exactly that. The thing I really admire about him is you can bring in a 10 who is a little, I don't know if soft is the right word, but doesn't want to get into challenges, maybe flops around, tries to get every single call. There are times when Lucas Celerion gets in some of the hardest tackles and he's fighting back defensively and he's doing all this work that just makes you rethink what it's like to be a DP number 10 in this league. And I think that has earned a lot of, not as if he didn't have respect from his teammates anyways, but who he's been to this club is not just his ridiculous ability to score a set piece goal and create in the attacking third. He is so much more than that on the field. And I really do feel like it's a nice piece for this team, and it fits in so seamlessly because they are really, there's a lot of demand on them defensively, and he doesn't shy away from it. But you could see in that, going back to those set piece goals, I think the Crew, I know the Crew lead Major League Soccer in goals outside of the box was 6. He has 4 set pieces, 3 of them against New York City. And his last one was the distance, long distance, just wonder strike against Cincinnati. Yep. So he has 5 goals from outside the box. The next closest team has 4 goals from outside the box. So Lucas is beating even every MLS team with goals outside the box. He's everything they imagined and really more. And him and his family really do seem to love it in Columbus.
Where would you rank him as among free kick takers in MLS history from your vantage point?
History, it's interesting. So Giovinco is number 1. Yep. When you talk statistically, I think he holds 6 and 5, I think, are the 2 top numbers, and those are both by him. And then David Beckham has 4 with Lucas as well right now. So I think that's pretty good company to keep. He's definitely up there, and that's at the end of the season, Sydney. That's not with more than half the season to play. Right. So he is going to have many opportunities. In that game against City, it was the second game at lower.com field, and the fans, you knew it. When City drew that foul, I think it was Acevedo, drew the foul, and you could see it in his face, like, you have got to be kidding me. I can't believe this is going to happen again. I'm not kidding. Everyone, before he took the kick, everyone in the stadium stood up like, he's going to do it right now. Like, you could just, sometimes you can just feel a goal coming.
Yeah.
And then he scored it. It was just like, I love Neil Sika, my partner, my play-by-play, said, "Build the man a statue." Like he really has been so good for this team, and he's a really nice man. This whole team is very humble, very eager to get better, and um, you know, can celebrate those wins together. I think Jonathan Mensah was like shining his shoe during the celebration. So he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah, I was watching the match, and just watching it, and I'm thinking, he's not going to do this again to New York City, and he did. He did. So
Yeah.
it's just incredible. It's just incredible watching him work, and hopefully for Atlanta United fans, they won't get a taste of that tomorrow. But as a neutral, it certainly is a treat to watch.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, and we'll touch on this kind of briefly, the rebrand, and sometimes rebrands work, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And obviously, in the case of Columbus Crew SC or Columbus SC, it didn't work, unfortunately. So
yeah.
back to the Columbus Crew.
I wouldn't say that. I would say, the rebrand is important to the evolution of this club, and I do think that there are things about it that anything. I mean, everybody has an opinion about everything, right? So
Sure.
I would just say that this club is super thankful for the fans that saved it, for the ownership that stepped up, and for the opportunity to keep soccer in Columbus. And you have seen them rally around this team, for 26 years. But really, since they thought that they were going to lose the team, I feel like the fans have felt so involved. And the fact that when the rebrand happened, the ownership said, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's make this right. I think that just even having those conversations were really important, and they landed on something that everybody felt comfortable with. And Columbus Crew is where it's at. And I think that all those things are important when you talk about it.
Yeah, you came on, and I believe last year was your first year with the Crew. So you came in like a little bit after the Save the Crew movement. So it's tremendous. And, just watching it from afar here in Atlanta is just incredible to see how that came together. And I was going to say books will be written about it, but books have already been written about it. But
there have been a couple of them.
Exactly.
And some documentaries.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of touched on it, right? But just your thoughts, having grown up around MLS in Colorado, around the Rapids, another team that's been around for a while, just your kind of thoughts on it and just seeing how that came together.
So I was in Colorado when the whole Save the Crew movement was going down. And honestly, it was, I don't think I knew the details of so many of the things that I know now, and how absolutely incredible it is. This has never happened in a major sport in America ever.
Yeah.
Think about it. The St. Louis Rams moved to LA. Their fans didn't get to save them. I think about so many hockey teams who moved from Canada to the United States. Their fans didn't get to save them. This is a really remarkable feat that the fans and ownership did in order to keep this team here in Columbus. And it shows, like, these people are proud. You mentioned I was from Colorado, and I'm not saying that everything is like so comparable, but where I live here in Columbus, people fly Columbus Crew flags. They have it on their door, like their porches, and they're wearing, the whole stadium is decked out in black and gold. There are things about it that really make you, when you engage a fan base, as you guys, I think, really set a standard for new clubs coming into the league as to how to engage a fan base. When you engage a fan base, they show up and they say, this is part of us too. So we have ownership in it. And I think that's what happened with Save the Crew. And it really is, I feel so lucky to, not only have been a part of Colorado Rapids with one of the, inaugural or the first teams in Major League Soccer, but to be a part of Columbus Crew now, who was the first team in MLS, and who did build the first soccer specific stadium, and who did save their team. And, everything about it, it just really does make me so proud. And I do feel very honored to be a part of the story that now continues to be written as we're yeah, in the middle of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned hockey teams moving from, I think, the United States to Canada. Kind of a sore subject here in Atlanta, since Atlanta has lost not one but two NHL franchises. Of course, the Flames being the first, and then
Yeah,
the
sorry.
Thrashers too.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Ooh,
That's
hit
fine. That's fine.
a sensitive
But,
spot. So you know what I'm talking about. It's hard. It is
yeah,
really hard to save a franchise, and um, really remarkable. And I feel like the fans appreciate that.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I want to ask you about Lore.com Field, which Atlanta will be going to, in just a few
In a
weeks.
couple
So,
weeks.
yeah,
Not even.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah, two
crazy to
weeks.
think
2 weeks,
about.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, you've seen it. You and Neil have seen it. You've talked about it on the broadcasts. For those that might be headed up in the next few weeks, or those that might be traveling just
Hmm.
as neutrals, to Columbus
Yeah.
anytime soon, your thoughts on Lore.com Field?
One, if you're thinking about coming, come because it's incredible. I've had the pleasure. You mentioned I've worked a lot with the U.S. Women's National Team, so I've had the honor of traveling the U.S. and getting to see some of the best soccer stadiums, whether it's in Sporting Kansas City or Red Bull Arena, Allianz Field in
Yeah,
Minnesota, Bank of California, all these beautiful soccer specific stadiums across the country. And there are things about this stadium that just make my jaw drop. The details that went into it. I think one of the most spectacular parts about it is the roof. It's the largest roof in Major League Soccer, and it covers
yeah,
every single seat, but it also keeps the sound in. And I'm
yeah,
sure that's kind of similar to Mercedes-Benz because it is a dome, but
yeah,
it keeps the sound in, and it has been night and day loud from historic Crew Stadium, which is so open and just this.
right.
They called it the erector set for so long. It was put together really quickly and created some of the best memories in U.S. soccer history. But this place is special. The locker room is. I walked in there and I felt like I was in a video game. It's just crisp and clean, and it has a huge logo on the ceiling with the stars and that they've earned as a club. And it's big, so you can see everybody. I've actually been in Atlanta's locker room, so
Yeah,
it's probably the same space, but not a rectangle. It's more of like a half of an oval, so it's
yeah,
really everybody can see everybody. There's nothing in the middle. Yeah, and there's three different club spaces that are all very unique. There is a patio, which is very key in life in Ohio, having patio parties. And so that was something that they wanted to incorporate in. And it's the second largest standing only portion in our fan portion in the
yeah.
supporter section in MLS. So there is just so many things about it. I could talk about it all the time for a long time, but it is spectacular. And it would be fun if you're an Atlanta United fan to come up for that game I believe it's the 7th of August, to come up and get to see the stadium and experience what it's like here. I've
Yeah,
been
it's
to
awesome.
men's too, so I've seen some
Yeah,
really cool. It's not a soccer specific stadium, but you guys have made
right.
it into your fortress, which
Yeah,
is the amount of fans you guys have always is so inspiring to me.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty incredible. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, you talk about Lore.com, you talk about Q2 down in Austin, you talk about TQL up in
Right.
Cincinnati, and then Audi Field, um, Nashville
Mm-hmm.
building their stadium. So you're seeing a
Yep.
lot of
New
a
one.
new wave of soccer-specific stadiums prop up
Mm-hmm.
that the crew pioneered, Lamar Hunt pioneered.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's really cool that the first team that built a soccer specific stadium was also the first team that built the second, got to do the second round. So, yeah, I mean, the state of Major League Soccer right now it's so cool to see it from where it is now. To me, I remember being a little girl going to Rapids games at
Right.
old Mile High Stadium,
Yep.
and just being in awe of soccer then, right? And in the perspective that is, I think that's part of it, right? Is inspiring this younger generation to have these dreams to be pro soccer players. And I'm sure kids are walking into the stadium like, oh my gosh, like, yes, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. I almost forgot DSG Park, which I had a chance to go to. The view is just gorgeous
Yeah.
out there in Colorado. So
Yeah.
hopefully,
Yeah.
plan
It's
to
so
go back
beautiful out there.
soon. Plan to go back soon. Gonna cut you loose, Jordan. But before
Okay.
I do, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, you guys can find me at Jordangeli. It's just my first name Jordan and my last name Angeli squished together. Somebody in college on the guys team called me that. He was like, "This is your Brazilian name, your Brazilian soccer player name." So I'm like, "Wow, I'm that cool. Of course, I'll take it." Yeah, so that I'm on Instagram and Twitter with Jordangeli. So yeah, and then you can find me if you like Major League Soccer talk. I do a podcast called MLS Assist, so you can find that me and Joe Lowry on that as well. Joe Lowry and I think that's more proper. I don't
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll figure out later. But
know. Yeah.
but definitely glad you could join me tonight.
Yeah.
Of course, Columbus Crew take on Atlanta United tomorrow on ABC. Jordan Angeli is the analyst for Crew matches on Valley Sports. Jordan, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Thanks so much, Sydney. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on again to Five Stripes tonight. And I do want to go through the injury list real quick for the Crew. Artur is out, as Jordan mentioned, with a hip. Aiden Morris with a knee injury. Valenzuela out with a thigh. Womior, I think I'm pronouncing his name right, thigh as well. They're all out. And then Josh Williams is questionable with an ankle. So we'll see if Williams comes back. But Artur Morris, Valenzuela, Womior, again, not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right. All out for the Crew tomorrow against Atlanta United. By the way, thank you, Josh Paul, for your comment on Facebook saying this is a nice surprise. Thanks for the content. Hopefully, looking to do a lot more of these interviews moving forward here on Five Stripes tonight. That is it for this episode. You can follow me at SHWrites on Twitter, SHWRITES. And then, of course, for the latest Atlanta United news and information, log into DirtySouthSoccer.com. Again, my name is Sydney Ott. I'm so glad you can join me tonight. Join me next week for a special edition of Five Stripes Tonight. I can't tell you what we have planned just yet, but I think you'll like it. But yeah, we'll see you next week right here on Five Stripes Tonight. So long, everyone.